In this tutorial, we're going to be using our Dermacolor Camouflage Cream range. The Dermacolor is known as a 3-part system, so in order to create a really durable and water-resistant base, it's important to use the Dermacolor Camouflage Cream, then the Dermacolor Fixing Powder, and then finally the Dermacolor Fixing Spray. So to prep the skin, we're going to be using the Dermacolor Moisturizing Cream. It says really nice hydrating properties, which is just going to prepare the skin for our full coverage base. The next product that we're going to be applying is the Dermacolor Camouflage Cream. This is a full coverage cream foundation and it can contain anywhere up to 50% pigment. So these are the collection of tones that I'm using for Eileen's skin. I'll be using a traditional flat paddle brush foundation applicator to buff the product onto the skin. And then I'm going to use a nice soft domed buffing brush just to work that into the skin, but with a light appearance. So working in layers is really important when you're using a full coverage makeup. It enables you to build more subtly onto the skin. Now, application styles when it comes to full coverage makeup is definitely a personal choice. Some people would definitely prefer to have a very opaque full coverage impression, or you can go for this method, which is layering really sheer, so we still get this kind of natural luminosity coming through from the skin, but we're neutralizing any other nuance of color. So I'm deliberately starting with one side of the face, just so you can see as the layers build up, the differences between each side of the skin. So I'm just gonna apply a much thinner layer underneath the eye, and then I'm gonna take a much smaller, completely clean and dry blending brush, and I'm gonna use that to buff underneath the eye, so we can be a lot more precise with our blending. Just going to work a little bit of the base underneath the brow and across the brow bone. So now we can see the comparisons from this half of the face, which has now had Dermacolor Camouflage Cream applied. So you can see it's still possible to achieve a full coverage foundation, but still retaining that luminosity that natural skin has. We're just going to apply it to the other side of the face. So this is D1W. And I'm going to be using it to add a little bit of highlight into the foundation base itself. And I'm just warming that product up on my mixing palette because it's a lot easier to apply and achieve a nice finish. So I'm going to begin by working on the top of the cheekbone, and I'm just going to work in small circular motions into the areas that I want to highlight. So again, I have an application brush and a clean blending brush. Now I'm going to tap this into the foundation base so it's blending down and becoming part of the foundation. I'm going to apply a small amount just onto the bridge of the nose. We just want to achieve slightly different tonal nuances. Now the next colour from the range I'm selecting is D10. Now D10 gives us an impression of a really kind of natural shadow which we can use as a contour. What I'm going to do is mix it in with the main foundation base that I chose, which was DM2, just to take off the coldness and the greyness of it. So I'm going to work again in circular motions just underneath the cheekbone and just gradually work up a natural impression of contour. And again, not working in stripes or lines, I'm working in small circular motions so that I don't end up with a stripe on the side of the face. I've got a natural kind of shadow building there. You can see there's not a lot of product on the brush, but I'm working in small circular motions, just slowly building up that shading. And again, I'm going to take my blending brush and just work over the top. I'm now going to be using from the Dermacolor range our 12 colour palette. This collection is called STN. I'm going to be using the D32, which you can see here, which is part of our corrector colour range. D32 is used to colour correct any dark pigmentation in the skin. So things from dark shadows under the eyes to scarring, tattoos. But the D32 is also a really beautiful natural blusher colour when using it from a beauty aspect. So we're going to be using a small amount of that today. So I'm going to be concentrating initially just onto the apples of the cheek, and I'm using a flicking motion. So as I'm applying it to the skin, I'm kind of just letting the brush take the tips of the bristles onto the apple of the cheek, and I'm moving in an upward motion along the cheekbone towards the hairline. It's really important to always have an application tool and a tool to help with the blending. And again, you can build the intensity of the blusher to your preference. You can obviously add more layers. I'm just gonna add a little bit of warmth just into the tip of the chin. And again, using that application method of apply and blend. The tip of the nose and just a small amount into the temples. But having these tiny little flecks of color will just give us more that natural kind of impression of skin while still achieving a full coverage foundation application. So the next stage of our application is going to be to set the makeup. So I would always recommend just going in with a clean buffing brush and just make sure that you go over any areas that have got any potential to crease or sit into the lines before we powder. If you powder a crease, it's really, really impossible to then blend out. Powder itself is the key to adding that really longevity to your makeup. And I'm taking the powder onto a powder puff, but then I'm gonna work it into the palm of my hand. What I wanna do is make sure that I'm pressing that powder down into the powder puff itself. What I'm doing is I'm slightly bending in the edges of my powder puff so that I have a nice surface that I can use to actually roll the powder into the makeup. So I'm pressing and rolling. Now I'm using the powder as my final stage once I've applied my foundation, my highlight, my contour and my blusher. So the powder is designed to set full coverage foundations. So it's an incredibly high functioning fixing powder. So therefore you don't need to add a lot of layers of it in order to achieve a really durable base. Now, if you wanted to create a water resistant finish to your makeup, you'd let the residue of this powder sit on the skin for around 10 to 15 minutes and before removing the excess powder. So I'm working in circular motions, just dusting through over the face where I've applied the powders, and then you'll start to achieve again that natural impression of skin tone. So now from our Variety eyeshadow palette in V5, so I'm just going to build a really soft, natural definition to the eye so it doesn't pull focus, but gives us a nice finished look. Adding slight warmth to the eye. I'm using the same color with a smaller blending brush. I'm just going to work underneath the bottom lash line just to give us a little bit of definition. And to finish this natural look, we're just going to use a really soft tinted lipstick. As you can see, nice luminous transparency with a hint of color. Now, the final stage, to set the look, we're going to use the Dermacolor Fixing Spray. This has a sun protection SPF of 20, and it's a really, really effective part of the 3 steps of Dermacolor Camouflage Cream application. Now, you should hold this roughly 15 to 20 centimeters away from the face, and you're working in circular motions as you're expressing the product from the can. Now, make sure you shake it really well before application. This will stop any potential wet spots appearing on the surface of the makeup and make sure we get a nice unified mist as we apply it to the skin. So as well as setting the base, the Dermacolor Fixing Spray also adds a little bit of natural shine back to the surface of the skin, giving it a much more luminous appearance. We hope you enjoyed our video. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. If not, then please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.